One going? All right, we can start this. Okay, well, we have 50% of things working here, so we'll go ahead and commence. This is the City of Hannibal official public hearing, Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. Time about 6:38 p.m. The council chambers. I'd call this to order. James Lemon, our city attorney. Something.
Mayor, we've already presented generally what's going on is that the Highway Department has requested that the city execute a right-of-way on the Highway 79 overpass. Check of their records, they didn't discover that they ever had a formal right-of-way. That's obviously something they would like to have and make sure they've got it. You'll recall that they did a presentation 2 or 3 months ago where they indicated that as part of the process they were going to replace the overpass with a lower overpass. We had some concerns. We had requested that they amend the right-of-way language to make some provisions that in particular we would have a particular amount of clearance on Industrial Drive, and enough so that we could get semi-trucks and we could get fire trucks below it. They have provided us with some amended language that I believe adequately addresses that issue, and that is on the agenda for a first reading later this evening at the regular meeting. But I think the purpose tonight, I know Councilman Welch and a couple of others wanted to give the public an opportunity maybe to come, ask us questions, give us their concerns on the matter. So I think that's why we're here. Okay.
Yes, anyone that does come up to speak for or against, I would ask that you sign in on the sign-in sheet so we can have a record of that. The project itself, we don't have a lot of information as there's not been designs given to us yet, but my understanding this has to do with the right-of-way and a maintenance easement for the overpass at this time.
Actually, installation of it. I mean, while I realize we all know that Highway 79 is there, apparently a check of their records did not find that a right-of-way had ever been formally conveyed. Now, under state law, they've probably got a right-of-way anyway, because once you allow the state to build a state highway on it, it would be my legal opinion that they've probably got a right-of-way no matter what. Right. However, doing this right-of-way will clarify to their satisfaction what rights they have. My concern, obviously, was when you have a highway that crosses over a major thoroughfare for the city, I wanted to make sure that we'd have enough headroom to get semis and fire trucks under there, because my concern, quite frankly, was, well, what happens if something happens where the right-of-way is blocked? How are we going to get a fire truck down to the south side? Right. So that was the nature of my concern. I feel comfortable that they've addressed that in the language they've provided, but I'm happy to discuss it or answer questions if the public has any questions about it.
Awesome. Anyone have any input at this point? Up here. Anyone up here?
I think it was addressed properly. I don't think there is any more clearance issue. It meets all the requirements. I don't think there's an issue with it any longer.
All right. At this time, I want to open the floor up for public comments. Like I say, all I ask is you come forward, state your name, write your name down so we know who's in attendance for purposes of keeping records. And the floor is open for anyone who wants to speak for or against the proposal that's here before us. And
Which is voluntarily granting a right-of-way in the form that they've requested is I think what we'd like public comment on.
Where we're at tonight. This is something I guess really should have been done prior to it ever being
I don't
done.
know how long that's been a state highway, but I'm betting 70, 80 years at least.
Nice. Okay. So at this time, anyone wish to speak for or against the granting of the easement?
Can this be general viaduct questions also, or no?
To the extent we've got
Yeah.
answers, I'm sure we'd. I think everything's on the table.
And I think I know your name, so we're good.
Alan Bowen. Thanks for having this meeting. This is a great place for the public to speak, even if this is a MoDOT strictly only project. It is much different speaking to your local rep rather than a board of MoDOT members who already have their minds made up. Now that I get the privilege to listen to the meetings via YouTube, since I missed the last meeting as my son wasn't feeling great, this is a great opportunity. It saddens me that the public hearing was in jeopardy by a council person who's been on the council for many terms. You would think this council person would jump at any chance to hear from the public, even if last meeting, all four public hearing meetings, nobody spoke. Some other is a chance for the speak that should always be given. Some other sanctions of the city should change their time so the working folk can attend their meetings as well, but I digress. I have a few questions about how we got here and how to proceed. Anyone can answer if they choose. Firstly, why did the second ward councilman meet with MoDOT and not the fourth ward councilman? The viaduct is strictly a fourth ward project. Did the council vote for Councilman Dobson to be the voice of the council, or when did that take place? If that happened, I mean.
May the 23rd, the meeting took place. I was invited by the city manager as the mayor pro tem.
Okay. Councilman Phillips, were you invited?
I was not.
When I was on the council, previous to Councilman Phillips, I was never given the chance to meet with MoDOT about the viaduct. We were simply given plans at a meeting and expected to keep moving. No prior knowledge or time to dissect the plan. I would have never went out of my way to meet about a project in someone else's ward without that council person in attendance. Secondly, why must Lion Street be blocked off? This affects Jack's Harbor, Everything Home, JC's, EMT, Fire, and HPD. I'll start with our response members first. Lion is a direct artery to downtown. These team members need this street to stay open. Everything Home and Jack's Harbor will now be dead ends. How will this affect customers? How will it affect unloading for supplies? The JCs put on some of the biggest concerts, festivals in this area. They use Everything Home's parking as VIP for the musical guests or member parking for their members when they have their monthly meetings. If this street is closed off, how will EMT respond in case of emergency? The flow of this area needs Lion Street to remain open. This should be a no-brainer in my opinion. We all need a new viaduct. It's old, uncompliant, a waiting disaster. However, there are some things that just shouldn't be wavered if we have the possibility, or the council has a possibility. I hope the council takes my questions. I'll be happy to debate them if you would like. Pass on to MoDOT, because obviously the council can meet with MoDOT, unlike some citizens. I don't know how hard that is, but I've never been to a MoDOT meeting. But either or.
Well, there were a couple of points Alan made that I wanted to answer, and obviously you guys take over from there. We don't know why they feel that Lion Street needs to be closed, other than generally, my understanding we've been told is that there's an ADA issue, that they're going to put walking access on it, and that the angle would be too high in order to get it up above Lion Street. Now, that's generally what we've been told. Now, I haven't seen any specific drawings. I don't know that there are any drawings on this project, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know that they would have a good answer for us. You know, my concern was this, or my point would be this. They're the state. They've got the right to take it forcefully if they want.
Of
now,
course.
I'm not saying they're threatening that, but I'm saying they can take whatever they want. The only issue we would have then would be, well, demand payment, you know, for the loss of Lion Street, et cetera, et cetera. My big major concern was in regards to industrial, and I'm the one that said, hey, hold up, we got to make sure industrial's open. But as we sit here, I'm not going to say the council can't try to address the issue with MoDOT. I don't know that they've said absolutely not. I just know that it's been generally indicated to us that they are going to want to shut it off because of issues with angles and ADA. That's probably all I got.
I also spoke with MoDOT, Representative MoDOT, about Lion Street in particular, and although I got no direct specifics, their major discussion that I had was a drainage issue. They still have yet to explain that or draft that out in print, but they said their primary concern about Lion Street was the drainage issue with the new additional lane, which is the bike walk lane, and the height change that is going to create a substantial drainage issue. Now, I've not seen any drafting to that effect, but it was related to me directly from MoDOT that was the primary reason for the Lion Street proposed closure. And I can understand that, you know, with the downpours and with the water and Lion Street already having no curb, no easement, no sidewalk, no curb, that with the additional widening and additional height issues, that drainage is going to be a problem. So that is the primary reason related to me from MoDOT for the Lion Street closure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, when we met with MoDOT, Mayor Pro Tem, they will absolutely be having a informational meeting for the public in the future, once they have their plans. So they will be announcing that, and they will be inviting the public to that meeting.
Okay, you have a day for that yet, or?
No?
No.
Once they have
No,
the
they-
plans, then they're going to set the meeting.
They won't be submitting plans to the state itself to be approved till July 1. What I had in my notes, local office to turn in plans to state first week of July. They'll let bids in September. The big impacts will begin in early February or March of 23, when they actually go into the demolition part of the project. Warren Barrett would maintain a 15-foot, 6-inch clearance, and the concerns, again, echoing what Councilman Phillips said, was storm sewers under the roadway, Lion Street in particular, and we're going to have MoDOT look at the Main Street Bridge and make sure that it was ready for the 80,000 pounds that's posted on that. That's what I had in my notes.
That's all I have as well,
Okay.
unless anybody has anything.
No, I
I didn't object last time because I thought it was wrong. What I was actually objecting last time to was I wanted people like you and citizens to actually come in and do this. So glad you did, but I have no other comments on it.
I appreciate having the meeting, even if it is lowly attended. I mean, that's why we have them. I mean, any chance for anybody to speak is always good.
and I share the same concern you have with, I know you have the home goods store there. What I remember is the old National Food Store, but also probably more so the Jack's Harbor Marine, because with Lion Street closed, that severely limits the Lion Street access to his storage of his main building. And we already know that the front side is
Almost impossible to get
almost
to.
impossible as it currently is. So he's really down to one side entrance around the back, and it's going to have an impact. So it bears everyone taking a strong look at, because it's, like I say, it's going to have an effect on him.
Right.
And I did get to speak with him briefly this evening, and he hasn't heard any new updates for some time. So
Right.
I don't know what plan. And like Councilman Dobson said, I have yet to see a plan.
Right. So if they
Shows
go out
me.
for a state bid July 1,
And that
then
goes, it goes to their planning.
Just
It
their
goes
planning
to the
part.
state July 1.
well, that's what I meant. But,
Yeah.
Doesn't go out to bid till September.
So then will the council get to see the plans and maybe have a say in it, or is that on the table, or?
Well, part of my opposition to having a meeting, a public meeting, was we don't have all the answers.
Right.
MoDOT will have the answers, and they will have a public meeting set at a future time when all the answers will be available.
Right, but these questions now you could take and we could all attend the meeting and ask.
Yeah, we could.
But your main, concern on Lion Street, I think it's already been decided
But why? I mean,
because of
I think
ADA
the question can still be
compliance.
posed. Doesn't hurt to still pose a question.
8% slope now, it's gotta be a 5% slope for the handicap.
if there is no plan, it doesn't sound set in stone to me. I mean, I've personally changed big plans by asking and bringing up questions and changing things. So, let's ask. That's my part. So, but good enough. I appreciate you guys having the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Alan, we do need you to
Oh.
sign in.
I think you did.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mark Ross. I'll sign it here in a
Okay.
second. Just a couple of things. I think I can answer some of the questions as to why you're going to lose one street no matter what, because you can't make the grade change without, it takes 2 blocks to do that. So,
Okay.
to get that clearance that you need. And Lion is the logical one because it's a substandard clearance now. It's less than 14 feet. So that's likely their thinking. Don't know that for sure, but the other thing is it's a little bit of a cost-saving measure. My past experience in dealing with MoDOT recently when we redid McMaster's is by the time the public hearing was held, all the decisions had been made. I brought up some drainage concerns. I brought up about a turning lane into Pirate Pride Drive to alleviate the stacking up of traffic, clear back all the way to Brookside at certain times of the day. And I was told, well, we've already done our planning. So I'm going to implore you to, before they send it to the state, ask them to review the plans with you. And make sure that you have an opportunity to review them and get your comments out before they go to the state. Because if they go down there and they get rubber stamped, it's over, guys. Public hearing is just window dressing. I'm sorry, but that's what it'll be. So, you guys haven't seen a plan? If you haven't seen a plan yet, that would concern me. You need to make sure. You need to be comfortable with it. You need to see how you're going to route traffic around. They'll have traffic control plans. You need to understand how traffic's going to flow while it's under construction, after construction. All those questions could be answered then, and I think you need to sit down meeting with them to review that stuff before they send it July 1st. So.
I have made a formal request with my contact at MoDOT for those plans as soon as they're available. I'll follow up with that. I agree with your statement. I agree wholly with what you're saying. To have a plan in hand before the deal is done. So if it's of any consolation, I have formally requested a set of plans, and I was given assurances that they're forthcoming.
Okay. I'd meet with them too and go over it. Have your street people go over it, your emergency services go over it, all that. So, thank you.
Mayor, I got a question. So, say they're saying, give me the date again in July.
Early July.
Here's my point that I wanted to make to the council. You guys have got a couple of choices of how you can handle what we've got on the agenda. You could table the whole thing and tell MoDOT that you want some answers before you're going to proceed forward on the request. You could do a first reading, and I don't know that I would suggest that because I think they're going to look at that as combative and bad faith. However, I think you've got the ability to have a first reading on it tonight and then tell them, we don't know that we'll give you a second reading, or we don't know that we're going to give you a positive answer unless you provide us some more information. I'm not trying to talk you into a fight with ODOT, but I think Mark's got some valid points. I think sometimes their public meetings do have a tendency to be window dressing. And if this is an issue that you want to have some control over, I think while, as I spoke with Alan, the control is relatively limited. They can take the right of way from you. But I think now, when you're asking them to work with you, they're asking you to work with them, now is the time probably to have that discussion. Again, my suggestion to you is the way to handle that is either table the discussion tonight or go ahead and have your first reading and but make it clear to them that you may not put it back on for second reading until such time as you're satisfied with the results you have, because there's nothing that says a second reading has to be immediately following the meeting. You can have a second reading months later if that's what you wish. So it's only, we can't have them too close. We can have them way far apart. So I guess my suggestion would be, I'd probably recommend you go ahead and do your first reading and go back to MoDOT, request the further information so you can make sure you can do your due diligence and encourage them to work with you.
Well, undoubtedly, the current viaduct needs replaced. I think we all concur on that, even the residents and those who are going to use it in the future, and especially I'm looking at pedestrian and bicycles both. So that, but now is the time for us to work together with MoDOT. I don't in any way want to poke a fight with anyone or nothing like that, because I think the objective of the citizens in the city of Hannibal and MoDOT are the same, just to put a new viaduct in. That's the objective. It's a matter of how we get there. I appreciate your input on that. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak for or against, or in general?
I'll sign in so I can make it legible later.
Okay.
Just a question, was MoDOT invited to this meeting? And is it possible that before the next council meeting, which is, second day of July,
Right.
would it be possible to bring MoDOT in here as they're finishing up and say, these are the questions that we have, things that we would like you to address?
MoDOT is aware of the meeting. They advised us that they would not be in attendance tonight because they were planning their own meeting.
Okay, so can they be invited in 2 weeks? Because if whatever you do or don't do tonight, you still probably have one meeting before they finalize.
And that's my thought, Jim. Is I think there ought to be a further discussion with MoDOT where we say, okay, we went ahead and had a first reading because we do want to work with you guys, but really, we've got the public wanting to know some answers, and we need to know some answers before we're going to take it up for final reading. That's kind of my advice, because I agree with you. I would like to get some answers regarding it. The information has been somewhat small that has been conveyed to us.
I understand, and I think that any of us who might have questions would feel maybe not better about the answer, but at least we're getting an answer if the MoDOT folks were here.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion from the public at this point? Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and call for an adjournment of the official public meeting, and we'll commence with the regularly scheduled council meeting here in just a second. I do appreciate those who come in to speak tonight. That's the whole reason for having these. And as much as I'd like to think we all here would have answers, you don't. And without public input and asking questions, it goes back to the more heads, two heads better than one type thing. So it is appreciated. So, we ready to go? Okay. I'm even running a few minutes late. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the City of Hannibal official council agenda, Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, council chambers, 7 p.m. I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmembers Welch.
Here.
Beach.
Here.
McCoy. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Here.
Councilmember Franke. Mayor Hark.
Here.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Here.
There being a quorum present, I would call this meeting to order. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson, would you do the invocation, please?
Heavenly Father, in our hearts we plan our course, but we pray that you establish our steps. I pray that we seek you for advice. Let us not make decisions based upon what we know, but let us act based upon your wisdom. Please guide us, Lord. Place this meeting in your hands. We place our hearts and our minds in your hands so that you may direct us. Amen.
Councilman Beach, would you lead us in the pledge, sir?
Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, council, at this time, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as it is posted this Tuesday, June 21st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilman McCoy.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to excuse Councilman McCoy from this evening's proceedings. Is there a second? Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Now seeking a motion to approve the accounts payable for the first half of June 2022. So we'll go back and do a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. It's approved with the excusing of Councilman McCoy. Now motion to approve accounts payable for the first half of June 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion's carried. Let's see. This time on the agenda is Martin Meyer from Historic Hannibal Marketing Council. Good evening, Martin. How are you tonight?
Doing well. Sometimes you need to kind of say thanks when thanks is due. This spring, the HHMC, Historic Hannibal Marketing Council, worked with the city to install the new Mark Twain themed banners that are on light posts up and down most of the streets in downtown Hannibal. The Home Foundation provided the art that we used. The downtown merchants paid for the banners, and it was about as easy and seamless a job as possible because we worked with Andy and his staff to install those banners. That is an awesome bit of collaboration between the merchants in Hannibal and the city, and the banners are awesome. Everybody really appreciates it. The city should be recognized for their hard work and efforts in installing those banners. So on behalf of HHMC, I wanted to extend that thanks. I will also extend another bit of thanks, and everybody is absolutely loving the fact that the city is involved with trash pickup up and down the city streets, and that's going wonderful, and we all appreciate that too. So on behalf of all of the merchants and property owners in downtown Hannibal and the Historic Hannibal Marketing Council, thanks for all the work that you do in working with us in downtown. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy, that's for you and your people.
Yeah.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is Jacob Naki with the Hannibal Community Promotions Group.
Good evening. This is my annual visit where I come before you guys to get approval to shoot off fireworks on Lover's Leap on the 4th of July. It's an annual event that we've done for a long time now. We use the same company for at least 5 years. They're familiar with the area. They do a good job setting up, cleaning up. I think we usually get the paperwork squared away relatively easy, and then they're out of there. And we haven't had any issues with the company itself that I'm aware of. But we have to come before you to get approval to shoot fireworks off, and of course to close Lover's Leap for that evening so we can discharge the fireworks. I think you'll find the safety plans in there. The fire department usually has a tanker on site. And I think other than that, we just secure the gate for security.
Sure. And of course, we're still pending the certificate of insurance. That'll be forthcoming. How many years have you been doing this now?
Too long? No, I'm not sure.
You're not sure? You don't even count?
No, I don't know how long I've been personally involved with it, but I know that the fireworks started back with the JCs, and now the Hannibal Community Promotions Group. And I know Mark Kemker does a lot of work with me on it, and we support the community. You'll see a lot of our sponsors. We'll have some banners that are currently being produced, and they'll be displayed. And they will thank our local businesses. There's a lot of businesses that step up and really support this endeavor, along with the city as well. So.
We appreciate your efforts.
Motion to approve pending insurance.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Shouldn't we have said ooh or?
Yeah. I like that. Okay. Council at this time under my name for a second reading, requesting an appointment. First Ward Councilman Darrell McCoy and Sixth Ward Councilman Jeff Veach to the Roadway Commission. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now for the Hannibal Regional Economic Development Board for a second reading. Mayor Pro Tem Mike Dobson and Fourth Ward Council Member Charlie Phillips. Is there a motion to approve their appointments?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. For the Employee Benefit Trust Board for a second reading, Andy Dorian, appointment for a term to expire May of 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. For your Hannibal Library Board for a second reading, Laura Judlow, Gordon Ibsen, and Raymond Lee, all reappointments for terms to expire June of 2025. Is there a motion to approve those three?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. The Employee Benefit Trust Board for a second reading, Beverly Stewart, reappointment for a term to expire May of 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Council, thank you for allowing me to make those appointments. Next item on the agenda is James Lemon, City Attorney.
James, you said that one of our options would be to table this.
Yes.
I'd like to say, let's table this. I'll make the motion to do that.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to table the item. Any discussion?
Just counselor's suggestion. I mean,
Well, you know, MoDOT has got the ability to take a right away no matter what. However, if we don't give it voluntarily, they're going to have to do that through litigation. There'd be a lot of back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And I can say they don't want that. And quite frankly, I don't think the city wants it either. It's an issue of what's a better negotiation strategy. Is it a better negotiation strategy to draw a line in the sand and say, we're not moving forward unless you come back to us? Or is it a better negotiation standard to do more of a carrot and stick and say, we did your first reading, but we're not going to do a second reading. We're not going to give you an affirmative vote until such time as you answer some questions that satisfy some things. I've already advised. I think that's probably a better route to go. But you guys get to make the judgment calls. All I can do is tell you how I would negotiate it if I was calling the shots. So
We just want to table it till the next meeting, get all the information out of them we can.
and I think that's a valid. I think it's a valid negotiation strategy. I don't mean to imply that it's improper to do it. I'm saying there's two ways to go about it, either that way or approve it and then tell them that. But like I say, you guys are the ones that get paid the big bucks to make these big decisions.
Oh, that's funny.
is time not a constraint? I mean, if you give the first reading now, then at any time you can come back and do the second.
The issue is, no, time is not a constraint. We do not have to have the second reading at the next available meeting. We can wait as long as, well, but maybe I misunderstood your question. If your question is time a constraint regarding the highway department? They say it is, and they've said, we've got to get this moving. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this, which is what I was told, and why we had an ordinance on fairly short notice for this meeting was they were pushing pretty hard, and it's not like I can't draw an ordinance up relatively quickly. So they say it is. Ultimately, here's the thing. They can say what they want about, well, if you do this, we're going to do thus and so. But again, it's kind of like us saying, well, if you do this, I'm going to do thus and so. I don't think it actually negotiates out that far. If I didn't think it was an appropriate strategy, quite frankly, I wouldn't have mentioned it as an option of tabling it. I think it's a matter of degree, and it's a matter of the council's pleasure. I think either way is an appropriate strategy. I personally would probably go the other way, but again, I also see some potential wisdom in going more of a hardline stance. So,
The only thought process there was that if we give it a first reading tonight, then, basically you can give the second reading whenever you want.
Correct.
If you table it all tonight, then you're a month doing it.
and that's fair.
Is it also true, though, that if proper information's distributed, education's done, and we are well aware of the intentions, that you can give something an emergency reading and pass it?
So long as the council discusses it in open session and votes affirmatively that it is an emergency, yes, you may.
Okay.
Like that lawyer answer?
Just a higher standard.
That's me citing what, in rough terms, what the charter actually says. Yeah.
That's what
Then
it
on the
is.
emergency reading, it takes a higher standard to pass, correct?
Yes.
2/3?
I think it is.
Sure.
Yes.
See, the city clerk knows these things. I just remember a few phrases from the ordinance enough to make me look intelligent. She actually knows what the law is.
I didn't know. I just threw it out there.
You were right.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll call. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait, did I just do that backwards?
No, you voted.
Oh, okay.
Voted
table.
affirmative
All
to
right,
table.
just making sure I wasn't going backwards.
Okay. You don't have to call that. No nays, so motion is carried to table at this time.
So then follow up on that, will somebody be contacting MoDOT?
What's that? Oh, my recommendation, have the city manager talk to them first, and then if they need clarification, I'll be happy to chat with them.
I would encourage them a week and a half to come downtown
I will tell them.
on behalf of JC's.
Awesome. Okay. And
They
That
did at that May meeting indicate that they were still in negotiation with Jack and the JCs.
Negotiated right away. Construction.
Okay.
yeah. In my understanding, that's
That's what they said, Jack. Okay.
which is probably a good reason why we
We need to meet with them.
need to meet and pause. I don't like being rushed into anything. Okay, so with that, Lisa Peck, City Manager.
Good evening. I have before you this evening recommendation of appointments for the Park and Recreation Board, reappointments for Beth Knight, Tim Badenhorst, and Quentin Heaton for the reappointment term to expire in July of 2025.
It's your first reading. Okay, your next item.
Next item I have is a reappointment of Ryan Rapp to the Board of Adjustment for a term to expire in May of 2027.
And a first reading. And your next three.
Yeah, so my next item, I feel like we've been dealing with this forever, is we had the public hearing at the last meeting, but we somehow did not get the first reading of the code amendments on the agenda. So the first one is Planning and Zoning held their I'll just tell you all the whole thing in case anyone missed it. Held their public hearing on Thursday, April 21st, 2022 to amend Chapter 28, Article 3, Construction, Maintenance, and Improvements, Section 28-105, specifications for sidewalks in residential districts, requesting the following to be removed. So of that section, only this wording will be removed. On all sidewalks in residential districts of the city where the width of the sidewalks has been fixed by ordinance at more than 4 feet, the paved portion of the sidewalk may be 4 feet wide, provided, however, that the inner edge of the paved portion or the edge nearest the building line of the property along or in front of which sidewalk is constructed shall be at least and not greater than 1 foot from the building line. So Planning and Zoning unanimously agreed upon removing this section and is now requesting the council's approval. And there will be a bill to follow.
Very good. And council, just for your information, there's a Scribner's error on our
Just under our heading.
agenda, under the heading on just our agenda here. It says Chapter 29, confirmed with the clerk and laid eyes on it. It is indeed Chapter 28, as the city manager has presented.
And that's also what the ordinance says.
And that is
in the
what the
packet.
ordinance is that we will be voting on says as well. Just wanted, in case someone saw that, was questioning.
Okay. The second also arose out of Planning and Zoning Commission meeting where they held a public hearing on Thursday, April 21st to amend Chapter 9, Article 4, Stormwater Runoff Management, Section 9-187, Stormwater Management Required for All Development. The ordinance will be amended to remove the following language. Only the Planning and Zoning Commission may waive the stormwater management requirement. This would allow for the acting city engineer to waive the requirement, and Planning and Zoning unanimously agreed to remove this section and is now requesting council's approval.
And that'll be a bill to follow as well. And your final item.
My final item was again from the public hearing held on Thursday, April 21st to amend Chapter 9, Article 4, Stormwater Runoff Management, Section 9-189, Project Classifications and Fees. So the recommendation for amending the ordinance is to amend the ordinance to update the fees to less than 1 acre, $200 review, 1 to 3 acres, $350 review fee, and over 3 acres, $500 review fee. The new amounts will cover the cost of the review from the engineering firm, which is required, and Planning and Zoning unanimously agreed upon to amend Chapter 9, Article 4, and is now requesting council's approval.
And just as a reminder, those fees that are being increased merely cover the costs of what's incurred. It isn't a profitable. It's just a clear wash for the city. That'll be Bill 20-018 to follow. Everything. All right. Corey Mahaffey, Hannibal Regional Economic Development Council. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, council. Before I get into the Community Improvement District, I just wanted to say that our board welcomed Councilman Phillips and Mayor Pro Tem Dobson to our last board meeting. We're excited about that. But I'd be remiss to not thank the mayor and Councilman Beach for their service on our board in the past. And so we appreciate that as well. And obviously Lisa's continued service on our board. So I wanted to thank you too for your service on our board in the past. So thank you for that. I have a memo, I think, that you all received regarding the Community Improvement District. As you know, we've been working on a three-tiered approach or three-pronged approach to revitalization programs in really 3 different corridors: Mark Twain Avenue, Broadway, and then also in historic downtown Hannibal. As you know, we've had a number of public meetings. Our most recent public meeting was on February 22nd, where we presented information about the three-pronged approach and answered questions for people at the meeting. We also gathered input for the city from people that were at the meeting regarding proposed boundaries at the time and just the programs in general. And so then worked with Lisa to revise the boundaries based on some of that information that we received from that meeting. And then we worked with the Marion County GIS consultants to help revise the maps, which is the map that you have in your packet you see here tonight on the larger board. That's based on the feedback that we got from those meetings. Additionally, Lisa and Mayor Pro Tem Dobson had asked for some additional information specific to revenue impact for the city on the real estate property tax abatement side, if we were to move forward with that. So you have that information in your packet. A couple things I would say about that. That obviously is based on the most recent boundaries that we have. Assuming those are final, that would be accurate information. Obviously, if the boundaries change, properties are added or properties are deleted, that would change those numbers a little bit. We are happy to recalculate those. The other thing I would say is that assumes a 100% property tax abatement. Obviously, if we decide at some point that there'll be a lesser abatement than that, then those numbers would adjust as well. So what you see there is based on that. So you see residential values and commercial values and a total number there. Again, that is specific to the city's portion of the property tax levy for real property tax only. So remember from our previous conversations, as we talk about the tax abatement portion of this, it is on real property only, not personal property. So those are the numbers that you see there. I also wanted to note, and you'll see in there, I kind of highlighted that for you, that those revenues really aren't lost to the city. They remain available for improvements to the properties and facilities within the Community Improvement District. Also, if you add in the neighborhood improvement district portion that we're proposing here, those funds will be available for the city for infrastructure improvements as well. So it's really not lost revenues, it's just retargeted revenues, or moving in a different direction in terms of those revenues. So, and then Lisa had requested that we set up a meeting with the council to review and give you a copy of the most recent SID boundaries, and then get your input both on the boundaries, the programs that we've also discussed, and then sort of the next steps as you see it for the community improvement district. So, any questions you have for me? I guess I would add, as far as next steps, typically what we would see is leaving this meeting with your blessing to schedule another public meeting, where we might invite, of course, the landowners. As you recall, in our last meeting we sent letters to all of the parcel owners within those boundaries. We also had press releases and other things to make people aware of that. We would do that again. And of course, it's a public meeting, so anyone in the community that has interest in learning more about this community improvement district is welcome to attend. We would do that again. We would go through again the programs and explain the programs, answer questions, and then we would get input on the revised SID boundaries. So that would be the typical next step. But if you have other suggestions or questions, I'm happy to take those.
Corey, was the intention to collect an additional 1% sales tax within that district?
Yes, so
to
one of the
return to
other,
the district?
correct, one of the other revenue streams besides the property tax for the community improvement district is up to 1 cent additional sales tax. That can be done in 1/8 cent increments, so anywhere from 1/8 cent to a full cent. And that's obviously part of the process with the council. When we get to the point of approving the community improvement district SID petition, you'll make decisions on the property tax abatement amount and then also the sales tax amount. We have talked about a 100% property tax abatement in the meetings and a full 1 cent additional sales tax in the meetings, but those are decisions that this council will make at some point in the future.
Corey, I had someone that operates a store down on Main Street, and there was one question that was asked. It's to my understanding that the people who don't live in the district but own property in the district don't actually get to vote on this.
Yeah, so the SID petition is actually completed by the people who own the properties. So they would petition to be a part of the community improvement district. So they do control that avenue if they own the building.
Right.
I believe the piece they're probably referring to is the sales tax piece. Sales tax component in this is only voted on by people who both reside in the district and are registered to vote within the district. So if you own a building in downtown but you live on the west side,
right,
that would be correct. You would not be a voter on the sales tax portion. Would be able to
so they can
complete or not complete
petition to be included in it.
Correct.
And if they don't petition to be included in it, are they still taxed?
They can be carved out of that, or this council makes the decision whether they include them or not. So that's a decision you all will make at a later date. So if you remember when we talked originally about these boundaries, you can see obviously the yellow property lines on that. Those are literally drawn by property line. So if you have someone that doesn't want to participate, council can opt to carve them out of that, or at some point when minimum thresholds of that are met, you can bring them in anyway. That's your choice. But I believe probably what they're referring to is the sales tax vote, which you must reside within and be registered to vote within the district to have a vote on the sales tax portion.
Okay, thanks for clarification.
That's current Missouri law. I tell people every day, don't shoot the messenger.
Right.
I don't make the laws. I don't have a vote. You know, I understand why people would have concern over that, but that's currently the way the law is.
Thank you.
Sure. Lisa, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it.
The revenues and everything, or?
Yeah, I mean, do you mind just stating for the
Sure.
record the 40,000
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
change?
So basically, the calculations that you saw in there, based on the 2020 residential and commercial valuations within those boundaries that are proposed, the city's annual lost revenue at the beginning would be based on 2021 property tax rates, but applied to 2020 valuations, would be approximately $40,228.94
For the entire district?
for the entire district, correct? Yes. You have the breakdown in your memo there. So.
Just for the public, would you explain how the board comes to be about, and then
Sure.
how those funds are dispersed?
Sure. So typically, the way the board is established, when the overall community improvement district SID petition is approved by this council, part of that process is you also seat the original board. If you recall in the meetings we've had in the past, we've discussed, because these are public dollars, we would recommend that a majority of those folks be public members. What I mean by that is if you had a 5-member board as an example, you may want the city manager as an example, a council member, perhaps the economic developer, and then 2 private. So you're showing, obviously, your constituents that there's still public oversight of public dollars through this community improvement district. So typically that's handled with the Community Improvement District SID petition that eventually, when we get to that point, this body will approve establishing that first board. Typically what you see is if the city manager, for instance, was appointed to that board, it would be in her capacity as a city manager, not necessarily Lisa Peck, and some of those other as well. At some point, then the board would self-appoint some of the other positions, but if the city were to say in the development agreement that they always wanted to have the city manager or these other folks associated with that, that would guarantee that that would happen. Remember, SID becomes its own political subdivision of the state of Missouri, so you have that opportunity to sort of set that forth at the beginning when you establish it.
Lori, what do you need for tonight? Do you need, basically, would you like a vote to be able to move to the next process of setting a public meeting, or?
Yeah, I
blessing?
think, assuming you all are happy with those, you know, Lisa and I worked on those together. There were a few properties added. I think the visitor center and the pool and a few other city-owned properties, Clemens Field, were added. As you know, this could be a long-term project, so we want to make sure we have as many properties in as possible. You can't change these boundaries once they're established, so if the city were to sell a piece of property, another developer wanted to be a part of this, if they weren't in it originally, they could not. So that's why I believe Lisa had suggested we add a few of those. So my, I guess, request from you tonight would be, you know, if you're in favor of continuing these discussions, and we would likely set another public meeting in the future and present these to the public again, get input and feedback from them, and then come back to you at that time.
So would your preference then be a public meeting, not prior to a council meeting, a public meeting, say maybe in this venue?
Yeah, we held it at the museum, Mark Twain Museum, and we did that kind of just so the people that were there, they're close, they can walk. I'm happy to hold it anywhere. I would suggest, Mayor Pro Tem, that we have a separate meeting just because the presentation takes a little time, and then there's usually a lot of questions because they're relatively complex programs when you combine them. So I've seen those meetings last an hour to an hour and a half, and so I'd hate to do that in front of one of your meetings. That'd be a long day. So,
Corey,
yes.
you'll have to forgive me, but how long do these boundaries last, and when, and how often are they redrawn?
Okay, so once they're established, they can't be changed.
Yeah.
This board will establish how long the program will be in force. We'll work on that as we get some of these numbers finalized when the boundaries are finalized. It could be up to a 25-year program, or less than that. It's going to be up to this council at some point. Normally that's driven by the infrastructure portion of that. So we'll look at some of the improvements that the city needs to do from water, sewer, stormwater, utilities, other things that need to be done within the district. And we'll try to look at the total revenues that we have, the total expenditures that we may need to have, and then how many years it will take to cover some of those things. So that's all yet to be determined, I guess, at this point, but it could be up to a 25-year. Now, the sales tax component of that can go on, not have to sunset.
Okay.
So that will be up to this body as well.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we ask our city manager to work with Corey to come up with a future date and a venue to work with the public on this.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
I'm not trying to poke holes in anything here, but it was kind of almost like a footnote you added that it should be the city manager and 2
It was
bodies.
just a suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah, but
because I've had one concern that someone could reach out without, someone reached out to me. They said that they would like to see more private individuals on this board because that way it gives the individuals more voice.
Ultimately, it's your decision as the council collectively. I tell you that, excuse me, from practice of doing this in other places, I will tell you that if you do research on community improvement districts, you'll see a variety of things on the internet. You'll hear from auditors and other folks. When a private developer establishes a community improvement district, there can be misuse of funds associated with those things. We'll just leave it at that. So one of the things that I think is important, public oversight of public knowledge. Now, I don't get to make the decision. I'm clearly just making a recommendation to you and how I've seen them establish other places. Ultimately, that's this group's decision on how you want to do that. Some of the people that have expressed those concerns to me, even at the meeting we held, on the other hand, also expressed concerns about the use of funds.
Right.
Well, frankly, that's the point of the oversight, right? Just to make sure that the public funds are being used for public good, not for private.
Like I said, not trying to poke holes.
I understand. But ultimately, it's your decision.
Right.
Have a good balance. And you mentioned the longevity of this could, let's say, was 25 years. So during that 25 years, the district boundaries are locked in.
Correct.
After that time, a new district could be developed at that point, which would include different areas or inclusive of this plus new properties.
Yeah, it would not overlay this one, but if you had buildings or areas outside this district, you could establish a second or a third district, to cover those areas. At this point, this is a large district, but at this point, we've tried to reduce costs. Obviously, there's legal costs, as you all know. You've approved those associated with establishing this, and of course, there's administration with the board and ongoing annual budgets and administration. So what we're trying to do is limit that amount of work to one. Could be broken up into multiple itself, or if you had some areas outside of that people would like to see developed, we could obviously add another one.
Good, because I mean, obviously 25 years, I probably won't be above ground anymore, but I'd like to think if I make a decision now on anything, that those in the future aren't held too terribly impacted by a decision I make. So,
Well, and it's one of the reasons why Lisa added a few of the city properties to that. We have advised in the meetings as well that churches, as an example, properties are owned by nonprofits. It does not impact them. They don't pay property tax. They don't have a sales tax. So we've advised that those buildings be included just because City Hall may not always be owned by the city. Or a church may not always be owned by a city. Well, there may be someone who wants to buy a church, as an example, to develop that, and they want to take advantage of these programs, but if they're outside the community improvement district, they can't.
I see.
So we would suggest putting in as many of those. The post office is another example. It doesn't hurt the government to be a part of this. As we know from the old federal building, it may not always be a post office.
Right.
So at some point, it makes sense for us to plan for that future.
Very good. So,
You got a motion and a second?
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Corey, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Jessica Rosencrantz, Fiscal Management Assistant. It's kind of a mouthful.
I have my agenda this time.
Awesome.
Okay. Per the Government Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 75, which will henceforth be called GASB 75, all government entities are obligated to have an actuarial study done for the expected cost of all benefits other than pension benefits that are promised to employees to extend past the retirement of the employee. Specifically, this is intended to capture promised continued health insurance coverage costs. GASB 75 requires the full liability to be recognized immediately on the balance sheet using the best estimated calculation of the present liability for future benefits by a third-party certified actuary. Lewis and Ellis are actuaries and consultants, and they completed the GASB 75 study in the past, and they are familiar with the city's self-insurance program. The cost is $5,900 for a full workup, which is required every 2 years. On behalf of the finance director, I recommend that the council authorize the mayor to execute and accept on behalf of the city the engagement agreement for the actuarial services with Lewis and Ellis, and the resolution is to follow.
Okay, very good.
That's it. Bianca wrote it up. You can tell her she's good.
Well, you did fine.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all we need now. Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services. Here we go again. Andy, you always have a lengthy
We have a
list.
plethora of items tonight.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. First up, we have an engineering service agreement with Klingner and Associates. The park board voted this to be their big project for the year. We are going to completely overhaul the tennis pickleball courts. The north side will still be tennis. The south side will be a 6-court pickleball court, and then we're going to build a third multi-use court, which will be able to be used for tennis, futsal, soccer, other different things. This also includes additional parking and underground electric, taking a secondary and moving it underground for that parking. So the engineering service agreement for the design, core samplings, things like that is $23,500. Answer any questions?
Will the extra parking include enough for the skate park?
Yeah, it's gonna, so it'll, you know how we like the 2 spots right there
Right,
now?
yeah.
It's gonna lengthen that whole thing.
Okay.
All the way up and down, so it'll add a
Right.
bunch more parking spots.
Will it be pull-in parking?
Pull-in
or-
parking, it'll
or
be pull-in
parallel
parking, yep,
Pull-in?
yep.
Cool. My kid uses that a lot, so.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely need more parking, so. Okay. Next up, we have a contract agreement with Bly Construction for the Lakeside Drive Road. We recently went out for bid for this project. We had several bids. We had a low bid from Bly Construction at $680,487.78. This was considerably under the estimate, so it's a good thing we never get low bids hardly anymore. As a reminder, the majority of this project is being funded by the Governor's Cost Share Grant Agreement. In addition, the small amount of match will be made by the Board of Public Works, since this road will be going into one of their electric power stations. So.
Okay. Your next item.
Okay. This one's a little bit different. This is an acquisition of property. It really doesn't have an address. We call it Kiowa Drive. It's basically a 20-acre landlocked piece of property adjacent to our landfill. We are working with the Conservation Fund and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the same group that we worked with Sedalis. They are looking to add more bat habitat conservation land. So we identified this piece of property as beneficial to the city in that it's a landlocked piece of property, and there's been issues in the past with easements, and the city really doesn't want to have people driving through its landfill, and DNR does not want that either. So this kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. It eliminates that landlocked property, and in addition, we get 20 acres of protected land. So this would be the sales contract with the Roger Milton Joseph Wright Trust for $73,080. That entire amount is being paid for by the Conservation Fund. We have an additional $2,445.34 expense that the Parks Department will pick up. So basically, we'll get this whole property for that $2,400. So, can I answer any questions on that? Okay. Next up, Amon Venus would like to donate 2010 Spruce Street to the city. It has a derelict house on it. It's been through building commission quite some time. So the city would acquire this, tear this down, and then offer it back for sale. We do have buyers for it. I don't see us having that very long. So as soon as we get it tore down, probably flip it pretty quickly.
And we're just acquiring its donated property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is a pair of resolutions. Lisa has been working with trying to find funding for 2 different projects, one of which is North Street Stormwater. I think she's beat down every door on earth trying to find funding for that. And then the landfill leachate. For those that aren't aware, the North Street Stormwater corridor is in really bad shape. Stone archway. It feeds all of that side of town, all the way up to the pool and all the way down. It's a very important stormwater corridor. The landfill leachate, for those that don't know, we have at the old landfill out in Rawls County that we maintain. We have a decree from DNR that we must haul out the water from those leachate ponds. We hauled last year about 2.5 million gallons of water, which means 4 to 5 trucks running 10 hours a day, several days a week, all year. When you only have a 12-man department and 5 of them are hauling water, it's very taxing. As the mayor knows, as he sees the tires all the time, it is very hard on the equipment. And quite frankly, it's not what a street department's supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be out fixing streets, not hauling water. But because of this DNR mandate, the landfill is our #1 priority, because the minute any water hits out of that landfill, it's a $65,000 fine accumulating. So the landfill is always the gift that keeps on giving. So we have been looking at funding for this. So this would be a resolution for the mayor to be able to sign all the documents applying for DNR ARPA funding to try to build a wastewater treatment plant on site to be able to treat the water, which would significantly cut down our labor costs. It's a very large project. I don't know if Lisa wants to add anything.
I was just going to say that would be the gift that really would
Yes.
keep on giving.
Yeah.
So then we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to have the manpower squandered any
Right.
longer.
Yep. And the street department could get back to doing what it's supposed to be doing. So yeah, those are 2 resolutions to follow to allow us to apply for funding for both projects and for you to be able to sign all the documents.
Any questions on that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Andy. Phyllis Nelson, City Collector.
Good evening. I have a budget amendment number 2 for this current budget year. It's a resolution 2420-22 to follow. There are a number of reasons that, we've spent more than we anticipated. First off, the security in mine in the court's office. We thank you for that. I see every day that more and more that is needed. But it did add some costs that we were not anticipating. Desk and chairs, that fit the holes that we got now. And then the court has come up with a lot more work lately, and you all approved recently a new court clerk, but we need to get that in the budget. And with the finance director leaving, I've had to work more hours than I was initially budgeted for. And then also we had to go to the show me court instead of lawman. And that has added a number of changes that we had to do. We had to have new computers to do that and everything else like that. And then that's not all in my office. But then with the police department, with the increase in fuel costs, they've certainly had spent more than they anticipated. But one good thing, the fire department received a donation of $1,500 from Swiss Colony, and they would like that earmarked to go to recruitment and retention. So all of these together make up this budget resolution request. The bottom line is $95,000 for all, and that will be coming up to fall. Are there any questions?
Necessary things. Thank you. Megan Rapp, Director of Hannibal Convention Visitors Bureau. Good evening, Megan.
Good evening, Council. I have two things to bring before you tonight. The first is a request for bid waiver in regards to media buys. Put forth the memo, basic in a nutshell. Of course, we have a purchasing policy that anything above a certain amount must be bid out. The issue with that in advertising is if you want to advertise on Facebook, you can't bid that out. There's only Facebook, or there's only certain specific things that you can do. So therefore, the first request would be to request a bid waiver for media buys utilizing the named vendors for up to $195,000 in total in the CBB fiscal year budget.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
A second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Obviously, these are, I'll throw the discussion in. These are sole service proprietary. So that's
Yes, there are some that, for example, Madden Media is an advertising company, but they also do, they're the sole provider for the St. Louis Visitor's Guide, for example. So
okay.
those are sole.
So that would be the reason for this. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried, Megan.
And the second has to do with the item that was at the last meeting. This is actually a little bit of kind of good news. It's just kind of, it's a little bit of a change. So I'm requesting the council to approve us to submit grant applications, plural, and if approved, allow the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Missouri Division of Tourism not to exceed the amount available in the CBB budget. And I've requested the change in wording simply because since the last council meeting when I had the request, they have changed a couple of the opportunities that designated marketing organizations have. So now it's going to be matched at 75% and 25% versus it was a 50-50 match last time. So that's a good thing. They're going to pay for 75% of it. And the Promote Missouri Fund, in the past, you were able to apply for one. This year, because of the extra funding, you can apply for more than one, but they are all Promote Missouri Fund program, but they're separate grants, hence the grants, plural.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. All right, council, at this time we have before us resolution number 2413-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2413-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute and approve an engagement agreement with Lewis and Ellis for actuarial services relating to GASB 75 reporting, other post-employment benefits for fiscal year 2021-22 for the City of Hannibal, including the city, library, parks, and tourism for a total of $5,900. Council members Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare resolution 2413-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have before us resolution 2414-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution number 2414-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute an engineering service agreement between the city and Klinger and Associates in the amount of $23,500 for the renovations of the Huckleberry Tennis and Pickleball Courts. Councilmembers Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare resolution 2414-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have resolution 2415-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2415-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a contract agreement between the city and Bly Construction in the amount of $680,481.78 for the construction of a section of Lakeside Drive into the industrial park. Councilmembers Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
and Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
I declare Resolution 2415-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Resolution 2416-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution, call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution number 2416-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a vacant land sale contract and corresponding documents for the purchase of 20 acres of woodlands adjacent to the old city landfill on Kiowa Drive from the Roger Milton Joseph Wright Trust in the amount of $73,080 plus additional expenses of $2,445.34. Councilmembers Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Resolution 2416-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Resolution 2417-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2417-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a settlement agreement and release and general warranty deed for acceptance of donated property known as 2010 Spruce from Ammon Bemis. Councilmembers Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Resolution 2417-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Resolution 2418-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution number 2418-22, a resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources Financial Assistance Center State ARPA grant programs for sub-award of federal financial assistance provided to the state of Missouri by the U.S. Department of Treasury pursuant to Section 602B of Social Security Act as added by Section 9901 of the American Rescue Plan Act, number 117-2, March 11, 2021, 135, Statute 4, 223-26. Councilmembers Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Resolution 2418-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Resolution 2419-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution 2419-22, a resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources Financial Assistance Center State ARPA grant programs for sub-award of federal financial assistance provided to the state of Missouri for the U.S. Department of Treasury pursuant to Section 602B of the Social Security Act as added by Section 9901 of the American Rescue Plan Act. Publication number 117-2, March 11, 2021, 135, Statute 4, 223-26. Councilmembers Welch.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Mayor Hark.
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Resolution 2419-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have before us Resolution 2420-22. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution, call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2420-22, a resolution of the City of Hannibal amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, number 2, to recognize additional revenues and expenditures relative to unexpected expenses and revenues. Councilmembers Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Hart.
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
I declare Resolution 2420-22 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have before us Bill number 22-014. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading and call the roll for adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 22-014, an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget and appropriating to the various departments, boards, commissions, and agencies of the city government of the City of Hannibal, Missouri for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Second and final reading. Councilmembers Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Bill number 22-014 duly approved and adopted on this day. Now have before us Bill number 22-015. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading as amended. Call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 22-015 as amended, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal to pay officers and employees of the city for fiscal year 2022-2023, second and final reading. Council members Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Declare Bill number 22-015 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Bill number 22-016. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 22-016, an ordinance revising Chapter 28, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Article 3, Construction, Maintenance, and Improvements, Division 2, Sidewalks or Parkways by revoking and removing Section 28-105, Specifications for Sidewalks in Residential Districts. First reading. I can get all that out.
We now have Bill number 22-017. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 22-017, an ordinance revising Chapter 9, Article 4, Stormwater Runoff Management, Section 9-187, Stormwater Management required for all development, in order to clarify that the power of waiver is vested solely in the city engineer. First reading.
We now have Bill number 22-018. Need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 22-018, an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Article 4 of the ordinances of the City of Hannibal by repealing and replacing Section 9-189, project classification and fees. First reading.
Okay, that was tabled. So, let's see. Council, at this time, there's a request to go into closed session in accordance with RSMO 610.021, paragraph 1 and 2, admitting myself, council, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, economic development, Corey, we're happy if you could attend as well, Matt, Andy, Darren, Justin Hill, Mary.
Mary.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mary, I forgot your last name. There you go.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Council members Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Very good.